The warrior's prize. The air was thick with the scent of blood and metal. The great arena of Zipharnine roared with the sound of 1,000 voices, cheering, screaming, and chanting for more. Warriors from across the galaxy had fought, but now only one remained standing. Commander Darius Kane stood in the center of the battlefield, his chest rising and falling as he took deep breaths. His armor was dented, his knuckles bruised, and a thin cut ran down his cheek. But he had won. Again. The massive body of his opponent, a towering reptilian warlord, lay motionless on the ground. Darius had fought many battles, but this was the hardest yet. He wiped the sweat from his brow, looking up at the high balcony where the alien overlords of the arena watched. A deep mechanical voice echoed through the Colosseum. Commander Darius Kane, victor of the Grand Blood War, claim your prize. A heavy gate creaked open at the edge of the arena. 2 armored guards dragged a chained figure into the light. The crowd fell silent for a moment, then erupted into even louder cheers. It was a woman, but not a human. She stood tall despite the heavy chains around her wrists and ankles. Her skin shimmered in the artificial light, a strange silver blue hue, smooth yet marked with faint glowing lines. Her eyes, golden and sharp like a predator's, locked onto Darius with pure hatred. Darius frowned. He had expected a treasure, a weapon, or even a high-ranking enemy. But this. The announcer's voice boomed again. Behold, the last daughter of the royal bloodline of Silara, a rare and valuable prize. Murmurs spread through the audience. The Silarans were a mysterious species known for their intelligence and advanced technology. Their homeworld had been destroyed years ago in the galactic wars. Most believed them extinct. Darius took a step forward. He had fought many battles, but he was no slaver. He never took prisoners. Yet this was the tradition of the arena. The victor claimed a prize, and refusing meant dishonor. The woman, despite her chains, stood tall. Her voice was sharp and unwavering. "You think you've won," she said, her golden eyes burning with defiance. "You have no idea what you've unleashed." The crowd laughed, entertained by her boldness. But Darius did not laugh. There was something different about her. She was not afraid. The guards forced her to kneel, but she resisted, gritting her teeth. One of them struck her hard across the face. Darius's hand tightened into a fist. He had seen slaves before, broken, defeated, hopeless. But this woman was something else. She did not lower her gaze. She did not beg for mercy. She did not even flinch. Darius turned to the arena masters. "What's her name?" he asked. One of the guards chuckled. "This one calls herself Lyra. But names don't matter for slaves." Lyra. Darius looked at her again. This was no ordinary prize. This was trouble. A new kind of battle. Back on his warship, the Revenant, Darius sat in his chamber, staring at the holographic screen in front of him. Information about Lyra flickered in blue light, but much of it was missing. It was as if someone had erased her history. Celeran Royal. High intelligence. Last known survivor of her species. Dangerous. Darius leaned back in his chair. He had fought in countless wars, but this was something new. What was he supposed to do with a royal prisoner? A sharp knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. It was Lieutenant Rhea, his second in command. "Sir, the prisoner is refusing to eat or speak. What do you want to do?" Darius sighed. "Take me to her." They walked through the cold metal corridors of the ship until they reached the high-security cell block. Inside, Lyra sat on the floor, her hands still bound, her expression unreadable. Darius stepped inside, and the doors sealed behind him. He crossed his arms, studying her. "You're not afraid," he said. "That's rare for a prisoner." She met his gaze without hesitation. "Because I am not a prisoner." Darius raised an eyebrow. "The chains say otherwise." Lyra smirked slightly. "Chains mean nothing. You are the one trapped, not me." Darius frowned. Trapped? In what? She leaned forward, her golden eyes flashing. In a war you don't understand. For the first time, in a long while, Darius felt something unexpected. Doubt. Liara was not afraid. She was not broken. She was waiting. But waiting for what? And more importantly, had he really won? The unbreakable spirit. The metal walls of the Revenant hummed with the steady pulse of the ship's core, a rhythmic thrum that filled the silence of the high-security cell block. Outside the reinforced cell, guards patrolled in steady formation, weapons at the ready. But inside the cell, the real battle was already taking place, a battle not of weapons, but of wills. Commander Darius Kane stood just beyond the glowing containment field, arms crossed, studying the woman sitting on the cold metal floor. She did not look like a prisoner. Her silver-blue skin shimmered under the dim lighting, her glowing golden eyes filled with something far worse than anger, defiance. Liara, last of the Celeran royal line, sat motionless, her hands still bound by energy cuffs, but there was no sign of weakness, no exhaustion, no fear. She had not spoken since she had been brought aboard. She had not eaten, not pleaded, not even attempted to escape. Darius had seen countless prisoners before, broken, desperate, willing to do anything to survive. But this woman, she was waiting. For what? Or worse, for whom? A warrior's patience. Darius stepped forward, the field separating them flickering slightly as he adjusted the controls on his wrist console. The containment energy dropped just enough for him to step inside, the doors sealing behind him. Liara didn't react. She remained still, back straight, her breathing calm, as if she had all the time in the universe. "You'll die if you don't eat," Darius said, voice steady, watching for any flicker of weakness. Silence. He paced around her, slow and deliberate, studying her posture. "You don't strike me as someone who enjoys playing the role of a martyr," he continued, "but starving yourself. That's a foolish way to die." Still, she did not move, did not even glance his way. Darius sighed, frustration creeping in. "I've fought wars, seen entire species wiped out. But I've never seen Acceleran up close. Your kind was supposed to be extinct. This time, a reaction. A single blink, quick and sharp." Darius smirked. "Ah, so you do care about something." Finally, she spoke. "You know nothing." Her voice was calm, but laced with quiet steel. Darius crouched down to her level, his piercing green eyes locking onto hers. "Then enlighten me." Liara exhaled slowly, as if measuring her words carefully. Then she tilted her head slightly, studying him in return. "Tell me, human, do you believe in fate?" The question caught Darius off guard. He had expected threats, curses, or silence. But this, fate, he echoed. "No, I believe in strength. You take what you can, fight for what you want. The strong survive, the weak perish." Liara chuckled softly, though there was no humor in it, spoken like a true conqueror. Darius's jaw tightened. He didn't like being compared to the alien warlords he had fought against. She continued, voice steady. "You think you have won, that I am your prisoner. But tell me, Commander, if I am the one in chains, why do I feel freer than you?" Darius frowned. "You call this freedom?" Liara smiled, not a smile of amusement, but one of knowing. "I am not the one afraid of what happens next." A cold sensation crawled up Darius's spine. Because she was right. Somewhere deep inside, he knew he was the one trapped in something bigger than himself. And it had only just begun. The captain's dilemma. Hours later, Darius sat alone in his command chamber, staring at the holographic display before him. Liara's file flickered in front of his eyes. Sub-GCT, Ulwa ARAXELR, Species, Celeran, extinct. Status, high-value captive. Threat level: unknown. Affiliations: no records found. That was what disturbed him the most. No records. Every species in the galaxy, even the smallest outlaws, had some kind of trace in the archives. But Liara, it was as if someone had wiped her existence clean. Who had she been before her capture? And more importantly, who was looking for her now? The thought left a bitter taste in his mouth. If she really was Stellaran royalty, there was a chance someone, or something, wanted her back. Darius's instincts screamed at him. This wasn't just a simple case of a war prize. This was a trap. The escape that wasn't. The alarms blared through the ship at precisely 300 hours. Darius shot out of bed, pulling on his jacket as his communicator crackled to life. "Sir, the prisoner. She's escaped." Darius cursed under his breath, sprinting through the corridors, his boots pounding against the metal floor. Guards were scrambling to their positions, weapons drawn, but there was no panic, just confusion. The security footage flickered on the nearest screen. Liara's cell was still locked, and yet it was empty. Darius clenched his jaw. Impossible. He stormed toward the control center. "Lock down all exits. I want every deck searched." But then something made him stop. A whisper in his mind. Not a sound, not a voice, but a presence. He turned, slowly, scanning the shadows of the hallway. And there she was, standing calmly at the end of the corridor, unbound, untouched, staring at him with those golden, knowing eyes. Darius reached for his weapon. Liara smiled. And then she vanished. The hidden power. Commander Darius Kane had fought in wars across the galaxy. He had faced the deadliest creatures, outmaneuvered brilliant tacticians, and survived battles that had turned planets into graveyards. But he had never encountered anything like her. Liara, a woman who was supposed to be a prisoner, yet acted as though she was in control. A woman whose records had been wiped clean from every known database. A woman who had vanished before his eyes, escaping a locked cell without a trace. Now, as he stood in the dimly lit corridor of the Revenant, his heart pounded, not from fear, but from something far worse. Uncertainty. The ship's alarms blared in his ears. Guards rushed past him, scanning every corridor, every maintenance hatch, every air vent. But Darius knew it was useless. Liara wasn't hiding. She was waiting. And that made her dangerous. He tapped his communicator. "All teams, report." Static crackled. Then, "Sir, we have no visual on the prisoner." Darius clenched his jaw. "She's still here. Keep searching." But deep down, he wasn't so sure. Because if Liara could walk through locked doors and security fields, what else was she capable of? The ghost in the system. Darius stormed into the ship's command center. Rows of crew members worked frantically at their stations, holoscreens flashing red warnings across the room. The AI systems were running continuous scans, trying to track Liara's life signs. Nothing. Rhea, his second in command, looked up as he entered. "Sir, this doesn't make sense. There are no unauthorized escape pods missing, no breaches, no forced access points." Darius's eyes narrowed. Then how the hell did she disappear? A sudden beep interrupted them. One of the analysts turned pale. "Sir, you need to see this." A large holoscreen flickered to life. It showed the ship's internal surveillance system. Every corridor, every hallway, every sealed chamber. And then they saw her. Liara was in the engineering bay. Calm. Composed. Typing something into the control panel. Darius's stomach turned. "Shut it down. Now." The analyst's fingers flew over the console. "I can't. She's overriding the system." Darius didn't wait. He grabbed his weapon and sprinted toward the engineering deck. Face to face. The engineering bay was silent. Darius stepped in slowly, weapon raised, scanning the room. Liara stood at the central control panel, fingers gliding over the holographic interface. Darius felt a sharp chill run down his spine. This was no ordinary prisoner. She had just hacked a military-class warship with nothing but her mind. The truth revealed. Darius exhaled sharply, forcing himself to think. She could have killed them all. She could have vented the oxygen, detonated the engines, or disabled life support. But she hadn't. Instead, she had sent a message, a warning. He took a slow step forward, lowering his weapon slightly. "What do you want?" For the first time, Lyra hesitated. And that's when he saw it, the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight she carried, the pain. Finally, she spoke. "I need your help." Darius froze. Of all the things she could have said, that was the last he expected. Lyra clenched her jaw. "My people are not extinct. They are hiding. And they are in danger." Darius frowned. "You expect me to believe that?" Lyra exhaled. Then, without warning, she reached up and touched his temple with her fingertips. A flash of light exploded through his mind. Suddenly, he was no longer on the Revenant. He was somewhere else. A ruined world. Burning cities. Shadows moving in the smoke. Giant warships looming in the sky. Screams. And then, a monstrous presence. Something ancient. Something terrifying. Darius stumbled back, gasping for breath. What the hell was that? Asterisk, 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 asterisk. Lyra lowered her hand. "That is what's coming, Commander. And if you don't help me, your people will be next." Darius's heart pounded in his chest, because, for the first time since he had captured her, he believed her. The choice. The Revenant was silent. Not the usual silence of a disciplined warship. No hum of the engines, no beeping from control panels, no chatter from the crew over the comms. This was a dead silence, the kind that pressed against the walls and seeped into the bones of those who felt it. Commander Darius Kane stood motionless in the engineering bay, his breath steady, but his mind racing. Across from him, Lyra, his supposed prisoner, held his gaze, golden eyes glowing with a quiet intensity. Moments ago, she had shown him something impossible. Not a dream, not a memory, but a vision of destruction, of a world burning, of an enemy so vast and terrifying that even war-hardened Darius felt his stomach tighten. "That is what's coming, Commander," she had said. "And if you don't help me, your people will be next." The choice stood before him, stark and heavy. Help her, betray his own kind, risk everything, or ignore her warning, and possibly doom humanity. For the first time in a long time, Darius did not know what to do. The weight of war. The ship was still locked down, its power completely drained by Lyra's override. Darius tapped his communicator. "Rhea, report." Static. Lyra watched him with an unreadable expression. "Your crew is fine. They will regain control once I let them." Darius narrowed his eyes. "You're asking me to trust you, yet you've just crippled my ship." She tilted her head slightly. "Would you have listened any other way?" Darius hated to admit it, but she was right. He had dismissed her as a prisoner, an enemy, until she forced him to see the truth. Still, he wasn't ready to surrender just yet. "Explain." He folded his arms. "Tell me what I'm really dealing with." Lyra inhaled deeply, as if preparing for something painful. Then she spoke. "The extinction that never happened. You believe my people were wiped out," she began. "But that is a lie. A lie your kind was meant to believe." Darius frowned. "Then where are they?" Lyra's jaw tightened, hiding, scattered across the stars, avoiding detection, not because we are weak, but because we are being hunted. Hunted. Darius didn't like that word. By who? Lyra hesitated. Then, in a low voice, she said a name. The Dominion. The room felt colder at that moment. Darius had heard that name before, whispered in dark corners, buried in classified files. A shadow force, rumored to be the cause behind civilizations disappearing without a trace. "You expect me to believe the Dominion is real?" Darius asked. Lyra's golden eyes burned. "You saw them in my vision, didn't you?" He had, and that unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. The cost of defiance. Darius rubbed his temple. This was spiraling out of control fast. "If they're after your people, what do they want?" Lyra hesitated before answering. "Our minds." Darius blinked. "Your minds." She nodded. "The Xylarans are not just another alien species. We have abilities. What I showed you, that was only a fraction of what we can do. We see things others cannot. We understand things before they happen. The Dominion wants to control that power." It made sense now. Her escape from a locked cell. Her ability to shut down his worship in seconds. The vision she had forced into his mind. Lyra wasn't just a prisoner. She was a weapon. And now, Darius had to decide what to do with her. The betrayal from within. Before he could respond, his communicator crackled to life. "Commander Kane, report." Darius exhaled. "Rhea, I'm here." "Sir, we've got a problem." "An incoming fleet." Darius's blood ran cold. "Whose fleet?" A pause. Then Rhea's voice came back, low, tense. "Ours." Darius's mind snapped into focus. If his own fleet was coming, that meant they knew. Someone had sold him out. Someone had reported the presence of Lyra on his ship. He turned to her, his voice sharp. "Did you call them?" Lyra shook her head. "No, but someone wants me dead before I can tell you the truth." Darius's jaw tightened. Whoever had contacted the fleet didn't want Lyra captured. They wanted her erased. And if Darius didn't act fast, he'd lose his only chance to find out why. A commander's decision. Outside the viewport, the glow of incoming warships illuminated the darkness of space. They were coming in fast. Darius had minutes, maybe seconds, to make a choice. His entire career he had followed orders, obeyed command, trusted in the chain of command. But for the first time, he didn't trust them. He turned to Lyra, eyes hard. "If I help you, tell me how this ends." Lyra's expression was grave. "With war, Commander, but not the one you think." Darius exhaled sharply, then made his choice. "Rhea, prepare for evasive maneuvers. We're not surrendering." A stunned pause. "Sir." Darius stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Lyra. "We're getting off this ship, and we're taking the fight to them. Because if the Dominion was real, if humanity had been lied to, then the real war hadn't even begun yet." And Darius Kane. He had just switched sides. The betrayal. The Revenant shuddered as the incoming fleet drew closer. Red warning lights flashed across the control panels, casting an eerie glow across the ship's bridge. Commander Darius Kane stood at the helm, gripping the edge of the console, his mind racing. He had made his choice. He would not surrender Lyra. But that meant he was now officially a traitor to his own people. Behind him, Lieutenant Rhea paced restlessly. She was loyal, but Darius could see the doubt in her eyes. The rest of the bridge crew was silent, waiting for his command. Outside the viewport, the warships of the Terran fleet loomed closer, gleaming metal behemoths armed with enough firepower to tear the Revenant apart in seconds. Darius knew the protocol. They would hail him once, demand surrender, and if he refused, open fire. Time was running out. He turned to Lyra, who stood just behind him, her glowing golden eyes scanning the screen with quiet intensity. She didn't look afraid. If anything, she looked like she had been expecting this. "You have a plan," Darius said, voice low. She nodded. "But you won't like it." The first shot. The comms system flickered to life. A holographic projection materialized before them. A high-ranking officer in full military dress, his expression hard as steel. "Commander Kane." The man's voice was clipped, cold. "You are harboring a fugitive of the Terran Republic. Lower your shields and prepare to be boarded." Darius's jaw clenched. And if I refuse? The officer barely hesitated. Then we will open fire. Darius glanced at Liara. If you have something, now's the time. Liara stepped forward, her hands still bound in the energy cuffs, but her presence was undeniable. You don't want to do this, she said, voice calm. The officer barely acknowledged her. That is not your decision, Celeran. Liara's eyes flashed. You don't understand. You are being used. This isn't about me. Darius frowned. What do you mean? Liara didn't answer. Instead, she turned to the hologram, staring into the officer's eyes. And then it happened. For a split second, the projection glitched. A flicker. A distortion in the image. And in that moment, Darius saw something else. Not a man. Something behind the man. A shadow. A presence. Something not human. Darius's stomach twisted. What the hell? The officer's image stabilized, his face blank. Your time is up, Kane. Prepare to be fired upon. Then the screen cut to black. A second later. Boom. A shockwave rattled through the Revenant. The first shot had been fired. Betrayed from within. Darius grabbed the comm system. Rhea. Evasive maneuvers. The lieutenant didn't move. Darius turned. She was staring at him, her expression unreadable. And then she drew her weapon. The bridge fell into stunned silence. Rhea? Darius's voice was low, dangerous. Her grip tightened on the pistol. I'm sorry, sir, but I can't follow you on this. Darius's pulse pounded in his ears. You're turning me in. Rhea's expression flickered. Guilt, regret, but also resolve. This is treason, Kane. You know that. Darius didn't break eye contact. And what if I told you they're lying to us? That this isn't what we think it is? Rhea hesitated. I don't know what you've gotten yourself into, but this. Protecting an enemy of the Republic. Going against your own fleet. She shook her head. I can't. You don't understand. Liara spoke softly. The war you think you're fighting isn't real. Rhea turned to her, gun steady. Shut up. Darius took a slow breath. He had seconds to act. You trust me, Rhea. Silence. A flicker of hesitation. Then, another explosion rocked the ship. Rhea was thrown off balance. Darius moved. A quick strike, one fluid motion, and he knocked the weapon from her hand. Rhea gasped as Darius grabbed her wrist, pinning her against the console. I don't want to hurt you, Darius said, but I will if I have to. Rhea's breathing was heavy, conflicted. I trusted you, sir. Darius exhaled. Then trust me now. A long, tense moment. Then, finally, she nodded. Darius let her go. Rhea took a shaky breath. What now? Darius turned to Lyra. Now, we run. A desperate escape. Darius tapped into the main comm system. All crew, brace for emergency warp. The ship groaned as its damaged systems struggled to comply. The Terran fleet was closing in, their weapons locked, their orders clear. Destroy the Revenant. Liara moved to the controls, fingers flying over the panel. We can't jump yet, she said. I need access to the main drive. Darius clenched his jaw. That's below deck. If we go, we risk being caught. Liara's eyes met his. Then we better move fast. Darius turned to Rhea. Can I trust you? A long pause. Then, a nod. Take the bridge, he ordered. Buy us time. Without another word, he and Lyra sprinted for the lower decks. The ship trembled around them, explosions shaking the walls. The Revenant wasn't going to last much longer. They reached the main engine bay. Smoke filled the air, and emergency lights cast deep shadows. Lyra ran to the control panel, scanning it quickly. Almost there. Then, a gunshot. Darius whirled around. A squad of Terran soldiers stood at the entrance, weapons raised. At their lead, a man in black armor, Captain Oren Voss. Darius's former mentor. "Step away from the Acceleran, Kane," Voss ordered. "This ends now." Darius's grip tightened on his weapon. No more running. No more hiding. This was his stand, and he would fight for it. The war begins. The engine bay of the Revenant was thick with smoke, the red emergency lights flashing in a slow, ominous rhythm. The ship trembled as the Terran fleet tightened its noose, weapons locked, ready to fire. But none of that mattered now. Commander Darius Kane stood face to face with Captain Oren Voss, his former mentor, the man who had trained him, guided him, made him the warrior he was today. Now they stood on opposite sides of a battlefield that neither had prepared for. Behind Voss, a squad of heavily armed Terran soldiers aimed their weapons directly at Darius and Lyra. Their orders were clear: retrieve the Acceleran or kill her if necessary. Darius tightened his grip on his pistol. This was it, the moment that would define everything. A dangerous standoff. Captain Voss exhaled slowly, his sharp eyes studying Darius. "You've always been reckless, Kane. But this, betraying the Republic, siding with an enemy species." Darius didn't flinch. "She's not the enemy. You don't know the full story." Voss shook his head. "It doesn't matter what you think you know. Orders are orders. Stand down, Kane." Silence. Darius could feel Lyra tense beside him, her golden eyes scanning every movement, every breath. She wasn't afraid. She was waiting, calculating. The soldiers tightened their grips on their weapons. One wrong move, and it would be over. Darius took a slow breath. "I trusted you once, Voss. Now I'm asking you, don't do this. There's something bigger at play." Voss's expression hardened. "Bigger than the Republic, than the safety of humanity." Darius's pulse pounded in his ears. "Yes, and if we don't act now, we're all dead." Voss's eyes flickered with something: doubt, curiosity. But then, just as quickly, his expression turned to steel. "I don't care." He raised his weapon. The first shot. The world seemed to slow. A flash of movement. Lyra lunged. Before the soldiers could react, she grabbed Darius's wrist and yanked him down just as the first shot rang out. The plasma round sizzled past his head, scorching the wall behind him. Then, chaos. Darius rolled to the side, firing his pistol. One soldier went down instantly, armor sparking as the energy round slammed into his chest. Voss barked an order: "Take them alive." But his men weren't listening. The moment Lyra moved without her cuffs, they panicked. The air filled with gunfire. Lyra was already moving, faster than human reflexes should allow. She ducked, twisted, and then she did something impossible. She raised her hand, asterisk, and the space around them shifted. The soldiers hesitated. Darius felt it too, a strange pressure in the air, like gravity itself had been disrupted. And then, boom. A shockwave blasted outward from Lyra, sending every soldier flying backward. Darius barely managed to brace himself before slamming into a nearby console. Sparks exploded across the room as the soldiers hit the walls, groaning in pain. But Lyra was still standing, eyes glowing, chest heaving, something ancient and powerful awakening inside her. Darius had seen a lot of terrifying things in his lifetime, but never anything like this. The cost of power. Lyra swayed, exhaling sharply. Darius saw her hands trembling. Whatever she had done, it had cost her. Darius pushed himself to his feet. "We need to move. Now." Voss groaned, pushing himself off the floor. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." Darius didn't wait for him to recover. He grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her toward the maintenance hatch. The ship trembled violently. Another blast from the Terran warships. Shields were failing. The Revenant wouldn't hold out much longer. "Where do we go?" Rhea's voice crackled over the comms. "We can't jump while they have us locked." Darius cursed. He turned to Lyra. "Tell me you have a plan." She exhaled slowly. Then She reached into her sleeve and pulled out a small glowing device. Darius stared. What the hell is that? Our way out. She pressed it. The world folded around them. A leap into the unknown. Darius had experienced warp jumps before. The sudden, gut-wrenching pull as a ship broke through space into another system. But this was different. 1 second, he was standing in the engine bay of the Revenant. The next, he was falling. Not through space, not through time. Through something else. A void. A tunnel of swirling light and darkness, like the universe had been twisted inside out. And then, they landed. Darius gasped, his knees buckling as he hit solid ground. His vision swam, his body screaming in protest. He forced himself to focus. They were no longer on the Revenant. Instead, they stood in a vast alien structure. Towering black pillars stretched into an endless sky, glowing symbols etched into their surfaces. The air hummed with energy. Darius turned to Lara, his voice hoarse. "Where the hell are we?" She steadied herself, taking a deep breath. Then she looked at him and said, "The only place the Dominion can't reach us." Darius froze. The Dominion. The name sent a chill through his spine. The shadow force that had wiped out entire civilizations. The ones hunting Lara's people. And now, they were in the one place that could fight back. A hidden world. A forgotten civilization. The last hope against the Dominion. Darius inhaled deeply, trying to process it all. He had started this thinking he had won a prize. Now he realized he had stumbled into the start of a war. And whether he liked it or not, he was going to be the one to fight it. Love turns the tables. The air was thick with energy, alive with something ancient and powerful. Darius Kane had traveled through countless war zones, stood on the ruins of fallen worlds, and faced death more times than he cared to count. But this place, wherever it was, felt different. It wasn't just another planet. It was something older, deeper, alive. The towering black pillars stretched endlessly into the sky, their surfaces glowing with strange golden symbols. The ground beneath his feet was smooth, almost metallic, yet it pulsed with warmth. It was like standing inside the veins of a living entity. And standing at the center of it all was Lara. Her golden eyes flickered in the dim light, her silver blue skin shimmering, as if she were somehow connected to this place. For the first time since he had met her, she looked at peace. Darius exhaled slowly, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. One moment, they had been on the Revenant, fighting for their lives against his own people. The next, Lara had used some kind of alien technology to pull them into a hidden sanctuary, a place the Dominion couldn't reach. And now Darius was trapped in a war he barely understood. A warrior without a cause. Darius paced, running a hand through his dark hair. "You want to tell me where the hell we are?" he finally asked. Lara turned to him, her expression unreadable. "This is Valanis, one of the last hidden strongholds of my people." Darius frowned. "Hidden from who?" "From the Dominion. From your people. From everyone." She took a slow breath. Because if they knew it existed, they'd burn it to the ground. Darius stared at her. "Why?" Lara's gaze darkened. "Because this place holds the only thing capable of stopping the Dominion." Silence stretched between them. Darius had seen Lara fight. He had watched her bend the laws of physics, disrupt energy fields, and move with a speed no human could match. And now she was telling him there was something even stronger. "You're saying your people have a weapon?" Darius asked, voice cautious. Lara hesitated. "Not a weapon. A force. A power that was never meant for war." Darius crossed his arms. "Then why are we here?" Her golden eyes met his. "Because we have no choice. The war has already begun." A heart caught between worlds. Darius let out a slow breath, his mind racing. "So what happens now?" he asked. You expect me to just join your fight? Turn my back on my people forever? Liara studied him for a long moment. Would you fight for something bigger than yourself? Darius opened his mouth to answer, but stopped. Once, he would have said no without hesitation. He had always fought for survival, for victory, for the next battle. But now, something had changed. She had changed him. I don't know, he admitted, but I know I can't go back. Liara stepped closer. Then maybe that's enough. Her voice was softer now, less like a warrior, more like a whisper carried by the wind. Darius realized how close they were standing. For weeks, he had seen her only as a prisoner, then as a threat, then as something else entirely, a force of nature, a mystery he couldn't unravel. Now, standing here, with nothing but silence between them, he saw something even more dangerous. A woman who could make him forget the war. A woman he could fall for. Love turns the tables. The air was thick with energy, alive with something ancient and powerful. Darius Kane had traveled through countless war zones, stood on the ruins of fallen worlds, and faced death more times than he cared to count. But this place, wherever it was, felt different. It wasn't just another planet. It was something older, deeper, alive. The towering black pillars stretched endlessly into the sky, their surfaces glowing with strange golden symbols. The ground beneath his feet was smooth, almost metallic, yet it pulsed with warmth. It was like standing inside the veins of a living entity. And standing at the center of it all was Liara. Her golden eyes flickered in the dim light, her silver blue skin shimmering as if she were somehow connected to this place. For the first time since he had met her, she looked at peace. Darius exhaled slowly, trying to wrap his head around what had just happened. One moment, they had been on the Revenant, fighting for their lives against his own people. The next, Liara had used some kind of alien technology to pull them into a hidden sanctuary, a place the Dominion couldn't reach. And now Darius was trapped in a war he barely understood, a warrior without a cause. Darius paced, running a hand through his dark hair. "You want to tell me where the hell we are?" he finally asked. Liara turned to him, her expression unreadable. "This is Velanis, one of the last hidden strongholds of my people." Darius frowned. "Hidden from who?" "From the Dominion. From your people. From everyone." She took a slow breath. Because if they knew it existed, they'd burn it to the ground. Darius stared at her. "Why?" Liara's gaze darkened. "Because this place holds the only thing capable of stopping the Dominion." Silence stretched between them. Darius had seen Liara fight. He had watched her bend the laws of physics, disrupt energy fields, and move with a speed no human could match. And now she was telling him there was something even stronger. "You're saying your people have a weapon?" Darius asked, voice cautious. Liara hesitated. "Not a weapon, a force, a power that was never meant for war." Darius crossed his arms. "Then why are we here?" Her golden eyes met his. "Because we have no choice. The war has already begun." A heart caught between worlds. Darius let out a slow breath, his mind racing. "So what happens now?" he asked. "You expect me to just join your fight? Turn my back on my people forever?" Liara studied him for a long moment. "Would you fight for something bigger than yourself?" Darius opened his mouth to answer, but stopped. Once, he would have said no without hesitation. He had always fought for survival, for victory, for the next battle. But now, something had changed. She had changed him. "I don't know," he admitted, "but I know I can't go back." Liara stepped closer. "Then maybe that's enough." Her voice was softer now, less like a warrior, more like a whisper carried by the wind. Darius realized how close they were standing. For weeks, he had seen her only as a prisoner, then as a threat, then as something else entirely, a force of nature, a mystery he couldn't unravel. Now, standing here, with nothing but silence between them, he saw something even more dangerous. A woman who could make him forget the war. A woman he could fall for. The kiss that changed everything. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then, before he could stop himself, Darius reached up and touched her face. Liara didn't flinch. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into his touch. "This is a mistake," she whispered. "Probably," he murmured back. And then he kissed her. It wasn't the desperate kiss of soldiers who didn't know if they'd survive another day. It wasn't a kiss of possession or dominance. It was a choice. Darius Kane, warrior of the Turan Republic, had spent his whole life fighting. But for the first time, he had found something worth fighting for. And as Liara kissed him back, something between them shifted. Something bigger than war, bigger than fate. Something unstoppable. The final stand. The moment didn't last long. A sudden explosion shook the ground beneath them. Darius pulled away instantly, instincts kicking in. What the hell was that? Liara's expression turned grim. "They found us." Darius turned toward the horizon, his heart pounding. The Dominion was here. Dark shapes descended from the sky. Massive warships, sleek and predatory, unlike anything human ships could create. They moved too fast, too smooth, like shadows slipping through the universe. Darius clenched his fists. "You said this place was hidden." Liara's jaw tightened. It was. Someone betrayed us. Betrayal. Again. Darius didn't have time to be angry. He reached for his weapon. "What do we do?" Liara's golden eyes blazed with determination. "We fight." The final battle begins. The Dominion ships landed with a deafening roar, and the ground forces poured out, creatures draped in armor that seemed to pulse with dark energy. Darius had fought in countless battles, but something about these soldiers made his blood turn cold. They didn't move like normal fighters. They moved with precision, purpose, like they already knew the outcome. Liara stepped forward, her hands glowing with raw power. Darius gritted his teeth. He had made his choice, and he wasn't going to let her fight alone. Raising his weapon, he stood beside her, shoulder to shoulder. Whatever happened next, he would stand by her. The last stand. The sky burned as the Dominion's warships descended, their hulls gleaming with an eerie black shimmer, their energy cannons primed to wipe out everything in their path. Darius Kane had fought battles before, but this was something different. This wasn't just another war. This was the endgame. And the only thing standing between the Dominion and the total annihilation of free civilizations was him and Liara. The battle begins. The ground trembled as Dominion troops emerged from their ships. Dark, shifting figures, wrapped in armor that absorbed light rather than reflected it. Darius felt it before he saw it. A wrongness in the air, a presence that didn't belong in this universe. "Stay close," he told Liara, raising his weapon. She didn't reply. She didn't need to, because she was already moving. With a flick of her wrist, the air crackled with energy. The ancient structures around them awoke, their glowing symbols pulsing in sync with Liara's own energy. The ground beneath them shifted, and suddenly the battlefield was alive. A war like no other. The first Dominion soldier lunged, and was torn apart midair. Liara had barely moved, but a pulse of energy blasted outward, sending enemy forces flying like ragdolls. Darius didn't hesitate. He fired his plasma rifle, the blue streak of energy slamming into a Dominion warrior's chest. The creature staggered but did not fall. Instead, its armor absorbed the blast, reshaped itself, then fired it back. Darius barely dodged as his own attack came flying toward him. "Their armor adapts," he shouted. "Then we don't give them time to adapt," Liara answered. She raised both hands, and the world shattered. The power within. A deep hum vibrated through the air as Liara's energy surged outward, connecting with the ancient structures of Valanis. The symbols on the towering pillars began to shift, forming new patterns. Darius felt the hairs on his arms stand on end. Something was waking up. The Dominion forces stopped. For the first time, they hesitated. Liara lifted her head, golden eyes blazing. "This is our world," she whispered. "And you are not welcome here." She slammed her palm against the nearest pillar, and the sky turned to fire. The turning point. The ground split open as pure energy erupted from beneath the battlefield. The Dominion forces reeled back, disoriented, confused. Darius took the chance. He rushed forward, blade in hand, cutting through the stunned enemy ranks. For the first time, they weren't invincible. Rhea's voice crackled over the comms. "Kane, we've got incoming. Friend lies." Darius's heart leaped. "Say that again." "You heard me. The Revenant's still flying. We're bringing reinforcements." Through the smoke, ships began appearing in the sky. Not just the Terran fleet. Others. Allies. Rebels. Fighters from the corners of the galaxy who had been waiting for a reason to rise. And now, they had one. The final choice. Darius turned to Liara. "We can win this." But Liara's gaze was distant, her face pale. Something was wrong. The energy was consuming her. "Liara." Darius grabbed her arms. "Stay with me." She smiled weakly. "It has to be done." "No." His grip tightened. "We'll find another way." Liara exhaled softly. This power was never meant to be wielded. It was meant to be released. Darius's stomach clenched. "What does that mean?" Liara's hands trembled. "I can stop them, but I won't survive it." Darius shook his head. "No, I didn't come this far to lose you." Her golden eyes softened. "You already saved me, Darius." And then she let go. The end of the war. A final wave of power erupted from Liara's body, racing across the battlefield like a supernova. The Dominion forces screamed as their bodies disintegrated into light. Their warships crumbled, their weapons shattered. The sky tore open, and for the first time in centuries, the Dominion fell. But at what cost? Darius searched the battlefield desperately. Liara was gone. The ground where she had stood was nothing but glowing embers. "No," he whispered, falling to his knees. He had won the war, but he had lost her. Epilogue. Love never dies. Days passed. The war was over. The galaxy was free. Darius Kane was hailed as a hero, but he didn't care. Because Liara was gone, or so he thought. Until one night, when the air in his chamber hummed with a familiar energy, and a soft voice whispered in his mind, "I told you, we were never meant to be apart." Darius's breath caught. And then, a golden light flickered in the darkness. She was coming back. And this time, nothing would keep them apart.